With the cataclysmic flop that was a Borderlands movie, Gearbox obviously had to respond in any way possible to salvage what little respect they may have left possible with the community, as well as with people who might be a little bit interested in the franchise after having seen that abomination in theaters. So of course they did what they did best. They announced Borderlands 4, but more importantly, they put the entire Borderlands collection on sale for 95% off. Which means I was able to pick up everything for pennies on the dollar. And I figured, what better way to just replay the entire series than drag a couple of people along with me. So that's exactly what I did. I dragged in my editor and I dragged in Demdank Memes, and I decided, let's make an entire series out of this. So, from here on out, we are going to be starting the entire series of Borderlands, and we're going to play through all of them and just talk about our experiences, because I've played all of them, but none of my friends have. So we'll just kind of go from there. We start off with that amazing intro, that hype build up around all of the Borderlands, that iconic song, and Marcus driving us on the bus. And of course, your boy here, being the sniper main that he is in every game that he ever plays, is going to pick Mordecai. My editor also decided to pick Mordecai, and well...
that was my kill. That was my kill.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. You go with my kills.
We are gonna have a fucking issue.
As long as you can hit your headshot, you will never have an issue on this character.
Then I'm gonna have a lot of issues.
And Dank, of course, he's picking a bunch of different characters. He's gonna pick and choose here and there until he actually figures one out, and I think he eventually settles on Roland, so that's probably what you're gonna see for the rest of the gameplay here. But we start through Firestone. We learn a little bit of the tutorials that is there, and there's not really a lot happening. We meet a couple of the famous iconic characters. We get Claptrap, we get Dr. Zed, and later on we'll get Dr. Ned as well. We also get TK Baha, and really, it's just kind of click and go, do a couple things here and there, and the first beginning part is very, very quick. It really just kind of shoves you through, and eventually you're just going to be fighting Nine Toes. He also has 3 balls. You know, it kind of sets the mood and the tone for the entire Borderlands series right there, that this is just nothing to be taken serious at all. And that's exactly what I wanted when I came back. I wanted to re-experience that old early 2000s humor where you could say pretty much anything and nothing would really get you in trouble, and it would just be edgy for the sake of being edgy.
Why is there a midget in our society?
You can't just say that.
Well, I mean, he's a mutated psycho midget.
Yeah, when you say it like that, that's fine, but like before that, you're just like, how the fuck's a midget in our society?
What's there a midget doing there in our society?
Editor, include that Dank doesn't look fetish for a certain midget porn actress. I have to find
Oh,
one.
yes, please. I know exactly who you're talking about.
Well, yeah, I would hope so. You know exactly who your fetish is.
I've heard that, like, she's in a lot of people's videos.
She's in a lot of people's videos.
No, like for TikTok.
It's not long from there that we get our own Digistruct. We're able to make our car, and we jump Gorge, and that's when we meet the other iconic character. We get Scooter. We don't meet him face to face first, but we at least get to hear his voice, and his voice becomes almost symbolic with anything hillbilly in this game, and it's...
I act all casual like when I say this. I'm a speaking code, so I hope you have the mental capacity to follow.
After that, it's a push to actually get to Sledge, and to do that, you pretty much just run through this little bandit area, you go in the back, and you just gotta kill this gigantic midget, and well, you know, sometimes you just have to push your teammates through.
I literally just accidentally killed myself. But it's okay, because I killed...
Sam just sitting in a corner looking at the wall.
I'm safe here. They
Sam's
can't, if I
got a
can't
blast
see
right
them,
now.
they can't see me.
You're not safe from everything, big
Don't
boy.
fucking touch me, don't touch me, don't touch me.
And with Sledge's key acquired, we push on to Sledge. And even sometimes, you would hope that games eventually have dedicated servers, or at least really good peer-to-peer. And, yeah, unfortunately for us with Sam, this is kind of where we had to drop him off at afterwards. Because real soon after this bit, it gets real bad. And actually, the best way to get around it was to just kind of leave him in the dust. The further we were away from him, the better our connection got, which was really ironic, considering that the game was peer-to-peer and we were running based off his location. Come on, get in, dang.
Wait, please! Friendos, please!
Go, go,
I
go,
can't be
go.
abandoned again!
Oh, it doesn't matter because we just reappeared backwards anyway.
Oh
my
god,
God,
you're
you
standing
cannot
in my
drive.
vehicle.
His lag is just like, you cannot escape.
I can't turn.
In my screen,
Oh god.
on my screen, I'm
Wait,
standing.
where are we? What the? Okay.
Do you see me? Am I standing in your screen?
Yes.
I'm standing in the turret.
After we killed Sledge, we kind of wrapped up all the side quests. Not many of them are actually memorable yet, and a majority of them don't actually have any funny bits to them either, which is really rare considering how filled with personality the Borderlands 2 and 3 side quests can be, where they can tell entire stories within a small amount of time and actually be really, really memorable. But Borderlands 1 has yet to really grasp that from what I remember. And I'm starting to fear that I'm blinded by nostalgia. And I fear that even going into the Dull Badlands, I'm going to have more of that.
Yeah. It's still showing.
Shit, he flipped him.
Wait, hell no. Strategically maneuvered it.
Shoot his ass, Dank. He's gonna kill us, Dank. Holy shit, what is this aim?
I need your face!
I was trying. I was getting shot by exploded.
Holy shit, I've seen better aim on a goddamn monkey with a controller. And before you know it, the Dolllands was over. It really was just a giant open area with nothing really memorable in it. Sure, you get to fight Skagzilla, but there was really nothing there. You had a Mad Max dome, I guess you could also say, but realistically, we just pushed straight into New Haven, and I honestly forgot about Dull Badlands even when I first started replaying the game. Once you enter New Haven, you actually get to meet a few of the iconic characters, such as Marcus face-to-face for the first time. You also get the idea of you're going to meet Tannis, but you actually meet this other lady who isn't the most fortunate looking. And I can't even remember her name now. Even looking through the footage, I'm just like, I can't remember her name for the life of me. So we're just going to call her Scarface, because I'm just going to leave her as Scarface from now on.
Dang, now would be a good time for your balls to get sweaty. That's my secret cat.
Of New
My balls
Haven,
are
I
always
am
sweaty.
responsible for the well-being of its citizens. And in that capacity, I must keep the road to Sanctuary closed for now.
You are
Baron Flint's
unfortunately
tribe
ugly.
and that infernal contraption of theirs are out on the salt flats. And I don't want citizens getting
still
killed trying
smash.
to get past them.
Yeah, I'm not shocked.
Come
Woman!
on, don't deny that you would too. I told Cinder yesterday, I was like, this is why the paper bag was invented.
And you get a couple of quests to just kind of go back through everything. And then you also get to meet Scooter face-to-face. And he's pretty much exactly what you'd expect him to be. He's just a very skinny, little, humble dude. And kind of living on his own, just doing his mechanic thing. And to be honest, New Haven, even for your first place of respite in a war-torn world of just chaos, psychos, midgets riding skags, and everything else, New Haven's a shithole, and it's really unmemorable compared to places that we get in like Borderlands 2 and even in Borderlands 3, where you have Sanctuary and then you have the space shuttle ship. It really puts into perspective like how much I'm misremembering this game. And it kind of sucks because I sat here thinking, damn, Borderlands is gonna be a great game to re-go through, and I'm starting to think that might not be the case, even more so than when I actually first started. And it only progressively kind of gets worse from here. With all that out of the way, we proceeded over into the Rust Commons, and traversing through that land wasn't awful, but it definitely was a little jarring on my first try through. And eventually we reached Tannis, and Tannis tells us about the Vault Keys and all these different people who have pieces of the Vault Key and how we have to kill them to be able to put them together so we can actually get into the vault. And first up on that list is Crom. Now, Crom is off on his own. He has this whole entire bandit village that is up in the mountains off this giant crevasse, and it seems like a really nice build-up to actually go and get to him, but it ends up falling short and just being kind of bland, because like a majority of all the fights in Borderlands, especially the first one, you can kind of just run at the enemies or just shoot them from a distance in the face and they just really explode. They don't really try to move out of the way of fire all that often. And even if they do, they move like 2 feet to the right or to the left and then crouch down and start shooting again, so you could just reline up your shot. It really doesn't have a very good gunplay feel to it. It makes it really rough. But eventually we do kill him, grab the vault piece, and then we move on to the next one. And after some mind-numbing boredom, we eventually come across our next challenge, the Rack Hive. Now, it looks exactly how it looks like. And yes, 12-year-old me was... No, I'm just kidding. But it really does look like that. And eventually we do kill this thing off. It's really not that big of a challenge, as much as they make you believe it's going to be. And then eventually you just get your next vault piece. And you move on. And there's no real feel like anything that you're doing is wrong or it has any real impact on anything. It really just kind of puts a dampener on the mood of just like, oh, literally anybody could have done this if they had a gun and a shield. Which means any basic marauder could have easily become the one that opens the vault. And I guess that kind of stands true even in 2, because they added Krieg and he's literally a bandit, but I digress. My point. With that out of the way, we have to go and get our third out of our 4 pieces. Now comes up one of the actual good fun boss fights from Borderlands 1, and it might honestly be the only good one. See, now we have to infiltrate basically a ship that's on top of a giant rock, and we got to take down Baron Flint. See, Baron Flint has a lot of properties that is fun about him, because he also has a brother in 2 that has a very similar setup that you have to eventually go and, you know, kill him for. And it also sets up that power narrative later on, but at least for now, just keeping Borderlands 1 in consideration, the entire atmosphere around this fight is great, because he's sending all his minions after you because he thinks you're too pathetic to fight himself, but eventually he does actually try to fight you himself. And then he's sort of a pushover. And then after we finally get that piece, there's only one piece left, or so we thought. It turns out that Tannis was actually working against us and with Commandant Steele. And her entire premise was to just distract us, gather all the vault pieces for her. And, well, all of them have been gathered now. There was actually only 3 pieces the entire time, and, well, she has them all. So now we have to go find Tannis, so that way we can actually go get the vault key and make sure that we can actually open up the vault. And while I don't really care for Tannis, I find that she, even in the first game, compared to all the games, is just really fucking annoying. And not only that, she's just this egotistical narcissist that they try to make you feel bad for multiple times with all these different side quests with her echoes and whatnot, that eventually I got to the point where I was just like, she might as well just be a bandit that we're just kind of talking to, that just happens to be intelligent enough to not want to talk about being the conductor of the poop train. And later on, what happens in 3, when she becomes basically Angel, not the biggest fan either. Stupid fucking thing. With Tannis found and her little side objectives done, now we have to go find Steel and work our way down the descent. Or rather, I guess, up the ascent, because I don't know why they started us off going down just to have to go up the mountain, when we could have probably just gone up regularly anyway. We finally work our way up the peak, and eventually we get to Steel, where she puts in the Volkey and we think everything's gone, it's over, she's won. And then she gets penetrated harder than I do on Sadie Hawkins' night, and absolutely destroyed by none other than the classically named The Destroyer. Great, great final boss name. And lo and behold, you would think the final boss would be anything difficult, but no, it's just like any other Resident Evil game. You shoot the glowy bits and you win. And the game ends so abruptly that I honestly forgot that that was the actual ending of the game. I thought it might have been like a pseudo-ending to try to throw you off, to think that there's more, like you have to go inside the vault and there's going to be all this stuff, and you don't even go inside the vault. You just pick back up right after, and you get a couple pieces of loot, and then that's it. That's the entire base game. I can't believe as a kid I actually thought this game was great. When I came back to this game after being a kid and having played it my first time back in 2009 on my Xbox 360, thinking this was one of the greatest games I've ever played because the humor was so good and everything on top of that, this game has nothing memorable left in it. Even when it comes to nostalgia, normally when you go back to something, you're like, oh man, this is so great, and you get to see it through your kid eyes again and just get to enjoy it for what it is. But sadly, I'm a cynical adult, and I think nostalgia is a terrible bait that people try to play off of so much, because a lot of people have these nostalgic factors so ingrained into them, like Disney adults, that they can't see past one tree and look into the forest. And honestly, this game is forgettable as shit. The mechanics are terrible. And the only saving grace from this is going to be our first DLC. So our first and only good DLC out of Borderlands comes straight out of Dr. Ned's Zombie Island. And you see, this DLC was fantastic. This one was still good, and it still held up even past everything that I remembered as a kid. You get to kill zombies, you do headshots, and you get brains, and use that for a secret reward from TK Baha, who's now a zombie. There's an entire Jacobs Corporation that is trying to put this under wraps of, like, trying to make a rejuvenation thing and trying to make our respawn points canonical. And it actually just turns everybody into zombies that, you know, are vegans, but, you know, that's not fun enough. They need their protein, so they reamp it, and now everybody's a fiend for brains. They also add in a lot of other horror themes to it. They add in, you know, mansions that are haunted. They add in werewolves, or in this case, they're skag wolves, or were-skags. There's Frankensteins. There's loot monsters in this one, so when you actually kill an enemy, they have a chance to have a backpack on that you could just pick up the loot out of, or like carrying a loot chest. And they had a lot of great additions into this that I just felt like they didn't really carry over into the other DLCs. So after multiple different trips around this entire complex, we eventually find out that there used to be a place similar to Old Haven, just like in base game. And this thing is a 1-for-1 copy, by the way, which is extremely lazy, even back in 2009. And I will never defend this. If you do any 1-for-1 copies or do anything that's so exactly similar that if I go down the path, I look at it and just go, oh, this is X place, but it's copy pasted to look like Y now, I'm not going to get you and let you slide on that. So we have to do a couple round offenses. We find out Dr. Ned is the reason behind all of this, and eventually we're like, all right, fuck this dude, we're going to go take care of him. We burst through the DLC because it's honestly a rather short DLC, as are most of the DLCs, especially if you aren't powering through the side quests, which many would probably argue that's the entire point of Borderlands, is to do the side quests. But a majority of them, especially in Borderlands 1, are there simply to keep you at level. Even from the very beginning, when we were doing the stuff at the start, you had to kill level 12s, and even after us doing all the quests and killing all the enemies at our level and killing them to like completion as we push through areas. We only reached level 8. Just a note. We eventually reach Dr. Ned, we absolutely murder him, and then that completes the entire DLC. There's nothing left here. We're moving on. DLC 2 is the arena. We don't talk about the arena. Although, if you do want to do the arena with me, I still need the achievements, because they're going to take about 6 hours. If anybody wants to suffer with me, reach out to me down in the comments below. I absolutely wouldn't mind sitting through there with somebody to absolutely just get it done for the achievement's sake. Now moving on to DLC 3. Now, honestly, DLC 3 isn't the worst. The Fort Knoxx, granted at the start, was kind of rough. It's really, really long and tedious because what they have you do is knock down these barriers. You have to drive to and fro across these entire maps that are literally 4,000 meters or longer. And they even give you a different vehicle that is designed to go as fast as fucking possible to get through these areas. Instead of just giving us checkpoints like they do in Borderlands 2 and pre-sequel through the DLC areas that allow you to click and go to the different spots. Instead, every time that you have to load in, or during these memory leaks especially, you have to leave and you get spawned back in the main hub. And if you have something at either end of the map, well, you gotta drive back there again, and it could be an absolute fucking nightmare. During this entire DLC, the only important thing you need to know is that Athena is here. The only reason you need to know she's important is because she's important for pre-sequel as one of your playable characters. Other than that, she's absolutely non-existent to the entire story. She basically is like a de facto from whatever company is after us. I think it's the Atlas company. Again, this entire DLC was just kind of bland. A lot of the times you're just going through and really just kind of killing whatever, just so that way you are, again, on level for the DLC. And really, we were so far above level that nothing really mattered. Everything we did just kind of breezed through, and you know, it was alright. But this was definitely the longest DLC that we did, and we cleared everything. We did all the side quests, everything. Even the Power Rangers that were coming after us the entire time. I just was not a fan of this DLC. The only redeeming thing about this was the bunker at the end. So, the bunker at the end was really fun for the simple fact that it allowed you to loot a ton of shit, try to get some decent legendaries, so that way you could just kind of go off and do your own thing. And then Marcus allowed you to raid it a couple more times. And there's also a glitch that allows you to fall through the bunker so you don't have to activate the actual loot area of the bunker. So you can just keep doing it on repeat and farm it that way. But again, there's really no point to doing that, because the moment you leave after you've looted that entire area, you have to run all the way back through again. And it is so tedious that I don't even know how people would have used that as a legitimate farm. I figured there would have been something better, and I guess you could argue that Cromarax is better. But me and Dank, we didn't even really do Cromarax until like after we were done filming the first Borderlands game. When DLC 3 finished, we finished up and started our last DLC. Now you see, DLC 4 is honestly one of the worst DLCs in Borderlands, hands down. This is also another one that is just extremely boring and just there for the sake of bloat, and I think for a couple extra dollars. You basically go to help Tannis to take down some rogue Claptrap that was teased at the end of Borderlands 1, that he was supposed to be an interplanetary assassin. And you would think it would be a teaser for Borderlands 2, but no, it's just a teaser for the last DLC they do. And honestly, all that build-up was for nothing. You fight all the old bosses from all the other DLCs. They got turned into part Claptrap, part humans. And it's just a dreadfully boring DLC. At the end of it, you fight basically what is a constructor from Borderlands 2 that's designed to talk like a Claptrap. It has miniguns, and that's it. And even some of the quests and achievements from Borderlands 1 for this DLC are so RNG heavily based that it makes Borderlands 2's heavily RNG based achievements look fucking tame in comparison. Now we'll start with my thoughts. As I've mentioned many times throughout this entire video, I came back from a place of nostalgia expecting to experience something wonderful that I did the first time that I played it back in 2009. And what I got was something that was so bad that I can't believe that I actually thought this game was good. You see, back during the time that it was out, it was something new. It was something amazing. It was, a masterpiece. It was one of the best looter shooters and probably one of the first looter shooters that we ever came across. And while it's fine to pay homage to something that came before everything else, there's something that we need to understand, that just because something came first doesn't mean that it's good. You wouldn't think the first iPhone is good anymore. You wouldn't think that Sleeping Beauty or even Snow White is a great film when you compare it to something like Frozen or Moana nowadays. And to be honest, it's okay to say that old things just don't hold up well and are just a basic formula to put something out to test the waters to see if something profitable down the road can actually be made using this formula. And that's exactly what Borderlands to me is. It is something that was designed as a testing product for Borderlands 2, 3, and the pre-sequel to actually build upon it and make it significantly better and actually have the ability to make it good. Even in its current state, the Game of the Year edition has such a bad memory leak issue that it becomes unplayable after an hour on rigs that have 4080s in them, on rigs that are running, pretty much what would be considered a supercomputer back in 2009. And it's a shame that Gearbox has left it in such a state, because even despite all my negative attitudes, I still like the game. There's still a lot of reward and merit in the game, and especially from a story standpoint, this is a great game. It gives you the basics. It gives you the idea of something bigger than what the characters have, especially when it comes to the other games later on. You have 4 people who have decided to ride a bus together, go hunt the vault key, find out that the vaults are kind of a bullshit thing, and it was always about the journey, not the destination. And while many people see that as a cop-out, I believe that's actually a fair point. A lot of games that I like are always about the journey and never the destination. But the problem with looter shooters is the destination at the end is always just the beginning. And sometimes we overlook everything in the middle. But Borderlands 1 doesn't have anything in the middle. It's a lot of bloat and no substance. So base game, I'd give it a 5 out of 10. It's not the worst thing I played, it's not the best thing that I played, and it's definitely not what I remember it to be. Now, the first DLC, Dr. Ned's, I'm going to give that at least a 7.5. With all the gameplay restrictions and the way that loot works and everything else, and how you have to play on the second playthrough to actually be able to get characters to match your level, and you have to basically replay through the entire story to get to this point anyway, I don't consider it worth it. But for what it is, the first DLC is great. It allows you to go have fun, kill zombies, and zombies still, even to this year of 2024, are still relatively popular as a genre. And while many people aren't really putting out that many zombie stuff anymore, it always has been just kind of everybody's favorite because it has the most potential to happen in the real world because of parasites that actually infect ants and stuff that actually take over their brains and make them zombies. It's very unique. Now, the second DLC, need I say more? It's terrible. 0 out of 10. Again, I really only want to do this for the achievements, just to have a fancy little thing that says I've platinumed. Well, on my PC, I guess it's saying I have 100% of all achievements. on Borderlands 1. So, yeah, hit me up for that. Otherwise, 0 out of 10 DLC. Moving on to the third one. Now, the third DLC, despite its shortcomings, it does have a relatively good story and a relatively good bad character in it. And while the rest is filled, again, with a lot of bloat, because that's usually how a lot of it is, you still get rewarded extremely heavily at the end for doing all that garbage. And you also get the first taste of our Invincible lineup. You know, we get Cromarax, the very first Invincible that we fight. And it kind of sets a baseline for 2, 3, pre-sequels, and probably even 4s when it comes to the Invincibles that we're going to have to fight for loot. So simply based on that, I'm also going to give this a 7.5. Now, I know my editor's probably going to look confused as shit because I bitched about this with Dank the entire time we were playing. But it's really not that bad. Like, as much as I talk shit about the entire process of having to drive to and from everywhere, it goes fairly quick, especially when you're playing with friends. But if you're playing solo, this DLC would slog on forever. And DLC 4, honestly, is also kind of a shit show. I'd give this a 3 out of 10. The entire premise of bringing back all these DLC bosses, making them part Claptrap, having this entire thing with Tannis and all this RNG achievement-based stuff really kills my need or enjoyment to play this DLC, but I also still need to do more of this to just unlock the rest of the achievements as well. So I'm probably going to eventually end up doing that as well at some point, but I really don't want to. It's going to be like sitting there for 3 or 4 hours just shooting claptraps that come out of the boss at the end, just hoping I get enough pizzas, panties, and fish bowls to actually really enjoy this DLC. The story also itself was just kind of awful. Really just terrible. And it was so hyped up to be something way more than what it was, and it really was just, I shot the claptrap at the end and it cuts straight to credits. And there's nothing more disappointing than that than when it happened in base game. I hope you guys enjoyed our little playthrough of Borderlands 1 as well as all the DLCs. We're doing a Borderlands 2, a pre-sequel, and a Borderlands 3 as well before the upcoming Borderlands 4 drop sometime, I think, in 2025 or whenever it is actually dropping. But until then, you guys take care, stay awesome. Can't wait to see you guys in Borderlands 2. Bye, guys.